All right, so recently we just had Easter, right? And traditional religion likes you to think that Easter is about Jesus dying on a cross and being resurrected in 3 days and all that other kind of stuff. Which it's beautiful symbolism and it has a very beautiful lesson to it. But it's not about a physical man dying on a cross. All right, first, this is Easter, right? The word Easter comes from Esther. It's Greek. It represents the goddess of fertility. This is why we celebrate Easter with rabbits and eggs. Because it's fertility, right? Getting it in like rabbits. That's first and foremost. Secondly, Jesus' resurrection and rising. So first we have to understand that April 1st, or at least this time of the year, right? Because obviously, solar system, it changes, things of that nature, right? But Easter is actually the new year, is a New Year's celebration, right? April 1st is really the New Year's. This is why it's called April Fool's Day, because once they changed to the Gregorian calendar, right? Anybody who still believed that April 1st was the New Year's was considered a fool or a savage. So they called it April Fool's Day. But in all reality, right? The people who think this New Year's is New Year's is an idiot too. Actually, probably more. Because how many seasons are in a year? 4. Right? Spring, summer, fall, and winter. Well, how can we have a new year in the middle of the winter? It would have to be at the end of winter, which the end of winter would be spring, right? This is one of the, what do we call it? The environmental disassociations in which we've been put in as our population has grown from our true nature. So Easter, the resurrection and rebirth is like a threefold story, right? So first, it talks about going from winter to spring, right? Because everything dies in the wintertime. Everything comes back to life in the spring. So this is the death and resurrection. And then the sun takes 3 days for it to pass over the Tropic of Cancer to get into springtime. So this is the 3 days of Passover because the sun is passing over the Tropic of Cancer to now bring us into spring, the time of life and resurrection. So those are the first two. And the third one is very symbolic because it talks about the transformation of man, right? When we fully understand and grasp our spiritual power and our spiritual nature, right, we will die of the material and be resurrected in the spirit, right? This is our part of our death. When our body dies, we still continue to live on eternally. This is what the example was. Jesus wasn't special. It was just an example, it was an allegory, it was a metaphor for becoming a new person, dying daily, as Paul would say, right? Dying to the material illusion and coming in the truth of consciousness and spirit. You got to understand that we can only perceive 0.03% of the light spectrum. And if you break that down into the atomic structures of neutrons and photons and things of that nature, all things are light. So we can only really perceive, taste, touch, feel, hear, and smell 0.03 of what's actually exists. Those weird feelings that you get, the hairs are raising and things of that nature, these are all, sensory perceptions of the other realm. Because we are actually fifth dimensional beings, right? Because what is a dimension? Dimension is a system of measurement. Now, to be in the 3-dimensional realm, which they try to tell us that we'd only have length, width, and height. But we also have time as a length of measurement. So that's the fourth dimension. And since we exist in consciousness, right, we're not really our body, we are our mind incarnated into a body. We exist on a plane that's outside the realm of length, width, height, and time. So we are fifth dimensional beings. So when you can understand that, it really makes you get a little bit more motivated on becoming spiritually aware, right? And understanding who you are, what you are. And that's what ultimately set me up. Right? When I understood that the church was manipulative and lying, I'm sorry to say that. And then when I started to reach into the science of existence, right? Atoms, photons, nuclear structures, quantum realms, and things of that nature, dimension, and all that other kind of stuff. Started to understand that these two go together, and one proves the other one. So that's why the church doesn't want. This is why church and science always had beef, because science proves the existence of God, and if God truly does exist and you can't access it on your own, then there's no reason for the church, right? And that's because the church is a marketing genius, right? Because it keeps you coming back wanting for more, because you'll never reach God until you die, according to the church. The church. So now they have you lifelong, because their goal is when you die. My goal for you is for you when you're living. Because to me, how I get it is that this body is physical, and this body physically dies, and my perception is all just electric, my feelings and things of that nature is all just electric impulses coming from this physical body. When I die, I feel no more pain. I have no more depression. I have no more chemical imbalance in the brain that makes me feel all loopy or anxious or whatever your excuse may be. So therefore, there's nothing but love, peace, and harmony. So even if I were to go to some eternal fire or flame, I don't have a physical body, so I wouldn't feel the heat and it wouldn't bother me anyway. That's how I see it. But I'm just spitballing here, just a guy with a brain. But that's some of my interpretation. Like, follow, subscribe, keep coming back for more spiritual and Bible deep dives.